Another thing with the hiring, though, is we need to remember that we're not just interviewing them, they're interviewing us. So I think it's important to, sell the aspects of your company that are positive, that you have strength in.
For WPM Real Estate Management, we're located in Owings Mills, Maryland, and we're owner operator. And we do fee third-party manage as well in multifamily. And I deal with multifamily, association, real estate, and commercial. Happy to be part of the conversation. And, Adrian and I have had a lot of these conversations kind of offline and one-on-one about the overall need in the industry and just the direction of things. So, always interested to get everyone's perspective and hear what everyone else has to say about how we can make it better.
I think I'm going to go against what you said, that, you want to make a difference, but you also have a job. I think you're making a hell of a difference at your job. Right?
Well, thank you. Yeah. We're trying. We're all trying, right?
Yeah. Jed?
Hi, everybody. I am Jed McDaniel. I'm the Director of Maintenance and Safety for Allied Residential. We're a third-party fee management or property management company based solely in Washington State. Over 160 communities, over 15,000 total units, growing every month. And like Mike said, I think this is a great idea that Adrian's put together. I think the more minds, the better, as far as what we can come up with to help our industry as a whole. I'd love everybody else's opinion. I don't think anybody here knows everything, so I'm glad that we can, put our brains together, see what we can streamline, centralize, and help in any way we can.
Chad, you're up next, sir.
I'm up. I just got here. Sorry, I was a couple minutes late.
I think that's the prerogative of leading the meeting. I pick whoever I want to go next.
That's okay, no problem. Well, my name's Chad Mullen. I'm the Vice President of Facilities for GK Management. We've got 110 properties, primarily in California. We have a handful outside. I've got about 60 commercial properties sprinkled throughout the U.S., mostly central in California as well. And I try to come to these whenever I can. When Adrian started this quite a while back, we kind of connected a little bit early in this movement. And so much like probably everybody else does, I'm a big supporter of being able to get together, get a group of professionals together to be able to openly talk about, hey, what are we doing? How are we doing it differently? How can we do it better? All of those things. And I like I said, I try to be here as much as I can.
Hey, thank you for being with us. And also I wanted to say that, Chad is more than just what he does on a daily basis. He's an educator. He's been very involved with, different initiatives with NAA, and all his input is invaluable. It's extremely valuable for our group. Peter.
Thanks for having this. I am Director of Maintenance and Purchasing for Center Space. We are as far east as Minnesota, which is pretty central to America, and then we go as far west as Montana. And we have about 13,000 units, and we are a owner-operator. And I'm excited to be part of this group to learn what I can and contribute what I can.
Good to have you here, sir. Jake?
Yeah, my name is Jake Straight. I work with Thrive Communities. I'm a multi-site supervisor. Just at almost about 1,000 units now between 4 properties, and just have a passion for the industry. And I also sit on the career development committee. So just anything I can do to give back and learn. And it's just what I'm here for.
A little bit about myself. I think each one of you, know me to some level. I am doing this call from beautiful Fort Myers, Florida, from a Starbucks. I have a couple of duplexes here that I own, so I came to handle some business. It rained so much between yesterday and today that I'm soaked. Like I still feel wet, even though my clothes are dry. It's been unbelievable between yesterday and today. And it doesn't mean like it doesn't look like it's gonna slow down for another week or so. It's like the streets are flooded. It's pretty bad here. But enough about that. Thank you all for being here with us today. We chatted about recruiting last time. I think that, we barely just started scratching the surface. I want to go around the virtual room and talk about your personal responsibilities when it comes to recruiting with your company. And the reason why I want to do that is that I know that each company is structured differently, right? The classic model, I will say, a regional maintenance director is more of a, I guess, trusted expert that's being just brought into the picture when, there's someone, a service manager or a manager, they're not too experienced to like handle interviews on their own, but there are other companies where like it's a must. Like I used to work for a company that every single service manager had to be interviewed by me. Not that I was the one making the final decision, but it was part of the interviewing process. So I'm curious about like in detail, what are your responsibilities when it comes to recruiting? And I'm going to start with Mike.
Thanks, Adrian. So the recruiting process looks like kind of I'll go start to finish on our end. Our HR department obviously is involved. We're in the middle of a revamp with recruiting, kind of dealing with a lot of the challenges that we're talking about today, but that everyone on the call is dealing with as well, with just identifying talent. Once talent arrives, whether they apply, we find them, whatever it is, we have a member of our team, which his position is maintenance operations advisor, but that's essentially a regional role that we have. And he interviews every service manager. So not a technician wide, if it's a technician role, then it would be interviewed by the service manager for that site. But if there was no service manager, this person would interview them, and then every service manager is interviewed by them just to get a baseline of, look, does their skill set match up with their resume? And that feedback is then given to the site manager, the property manager, to say, okay, this person does know HVAC, they can repair HVAC, or they can just, they're just talking to talk. They really don't have the answers to the questions to back it up. So we always go through that process. We take and again, we're in a kind of a revamp of the whole recruiting process where we're looking at things very differently than we've historically done. Looking at new places to recruit from, looking at other industries that we can potentially pull from, and advertising in different places where historically we do Indeed or just online. LinkedIn necessarily hasn't been a huge resource for technicians necessarily. It's kind of like back and forth with service managers because they're not all on LinkedIn. So there's, as you get to higher roles, regional roles, you're more successful with advertising on LinkedIn, I think. But that's the avenue, they come in, we definitely have a hand in the interview process. And then from there, make a recommendation on, are they a good fit for this community? And if not, then their skill set doesn't match up here. Maybe they're a good fit for another community, right? So, we have a heavy focus on identifying the talent. So, and we'll figure out where to put them, right? If someone comes in and they have the attitude, they have experience, and it's like, they're just not a good fit for this role, we try to figure out where we can put them, because we know as soon as we let them out the door, someone else on this call is going to hire them, right? So the neighbor down the street, our competitor, is going to grab them. We're also, as I say, we're kind of in a transition at the moment. We're like really into it with reevaluating our rental discounts, and our on-call pay, and things like that. So kind of the whole maintenance compensation package is on the table and under review right now at WPM to make sure we're being competitive, and that we're kind of living with our brand, that it's and our culture, that it's a place where we can not only attract talent but keep top talent and retain that top talent. And as anyone who's been in the industry long enough knows, companies, when they identify someone that's a solid performer, a high performer, a lot of times what they do is they lock them down, right? And they make it very difficult for that person to leave, whether it's through financial compensation or benefits, whatever it is. But they recognize their value and they want to keep them there. So that's kind of our process. I tried to hit on everything, and I think there's a much larger conversation just to get them in the door. Right, I think is a huge part of the conversation on how do you get them, to apply? Where do you identify these candidates at? And it kind of then ties into building the bench and training programs, apprenticeships. And I do just want to touch on that briefly. We do have an apprenticeship program that we do, and we've had mixed results with it. But we basically bring in anywhere from a site tech level to a service tech level. And then they go through a mentoring process and a training process that tends to be less and less focused on technical skill sets and more focused on leadership and the soft skills. Our local NAA affiliate, Maryland Multi-Housing Association, has a similar program. We hire from them at times. And skill set is not always the strongest. However, what we're really trying to identify there is soft skills and the attitude. And if we can get someone in, bring them into the industry, and it turns out to be a career for them, like it's happened for a lot of us, that's a win. I think that's a win all day for not only our organization, but also the industry as a whole.
Oh, Mike, I have a question here. I think everybody might be interested in hearing this. In your apprenticeship program, is it like a standard program, or would you take someone that actually has certain set of skills and create a curriculum that actually adapts to their needs and maybe necessarily makes them skip certain things that they already know, they're already proficient at? Let's just say that someone has been a plumber, right? And you don't want to necessarily, want to do the plumbing module. Is that an option, or is just a one size fits all? This is the program you run everybody through, and at the end they graduate and they you place them in the most appropriate position. How does that work?
That's a great question. It's kind of a two-part is what we do. So the first part is it's standardized. When you come in, everyone gets the same treatment. It's a year-long apprenticeship program called the SMART program, Service Mentoring and Response Training. And what it is so for the first couple months, you're taking, and everyone has the same classes, and we're really identifying your strengths and weaknesses, right? And you're spending time with mentors on various sites throughout the organization to where we can then get feedback and say, hey, this person's really good at HVAC, but they don't have any plumbing experience. They're really good at carpentry. They don't have HVAC. And then we kind of take that to tailor the second half of the year to kind of custom tailor it to, okay, you need to focus on HVAC. You need to focus on plumbing. And so that's how we're doing it. Our program has evolved over the last 7 years. We've been doing that program, and we've been able to build a bench with a lot of associates that came in as site techs and were identified that they had the soft skills, they had the drive, they had the attitude, they wanted to work, they wanted to improve, they wanted to grow. And we kind of created a path. And in a lot of those cases, the overwhelming majority, I don't have the statistic, they're service managers, multi-site service managers in a lot of cases. And these are people that within a 10-year span went from coming in, picking up trash as a site tech, kind of porter doing grounds, and now they're running a property, a full-blown successful service manager with multiple properties under their belt. They've went from, different places within our organization. So I think it's the mix. You got to kind of have both.
Well, that's great, Raider. That's great feedback, Mike. Peter, tell us about your responsibilities with hiring, and tell us about the hiring process in general. Like, where do you touch, in a process of hiring, recruiting? Sorry.
Hiring, recruiting. Right now, I currently have a very minimal impact. My role is new, so I have nobody underneath me as a direct report, kind of a lot of influence with no responsibility. Not really quite, but from a site team level, we have a similar type of advertising. We also try to do a lot of word of mouth and do like in-house promotions for people, not promotions. We want people to get their own friends to do it. So if they refer somebody, they get a $750 bonus that goes to their paycheck. If somebody stays with for 3 and then 6 months. If you, from a site level, typically our service supervisors will do the interviews along with their community managers. If there's not a service supervisor, they might include somebody else from another team or other people that might have an interaction with them, or pull somebody from a local property that also has a service supervisor for that interaction. I think one of the things that we see as good to retain is that we do a pretty good benefits program, both with like healthcare, mental well-being, but then also our on-call is pretty competitive. I feel I would be interested to see what Mike was saying when they're doing their benefits package. We do our on-call time is always time and a half. If you get a phone call, it's a minimum of an hour, and if you go on site, it's a minimum of 2 hours, no matter how long you're actually there. But I'd be interested to see what Mike is, what they're doing too.
You want to wait on that, Mike? You want to share?
Yeah, you know, we're reviewing it. So our historically our policy has been 1 hour minimum. And we have an auto allowance that is allocated separately year round, on a biweekly basis, right? So we historically haven't always paid for travel time. What we're looking at now is trying to incorporate travel time. We're working with our HR department to determine, should there just be a flat 2 hour minimum? Like, should we increase the minimum for every call and leave drive time out of it? Or should we have an allocation for drive time and increase that? And so I think in the end, what we're going to end up likely doing is increase the auto allowance, and stick with the hour minimum. And so that's where we're at with that. It's you know, there's a whole bunch of different factors that we've had to look at from the HR perspective about what we can and can't do. It's not just very, you know, and what we've kind of come to the conclusion of is that it's better to keep it as clean as possible, with drive time being one, you know, through an auto allowance, and then for mileage, right? Because otherwise, what's a technician going to do? They get 15 calls. They're going to go back and submit mileage for all 15 calls. And so, I mean, it's not an easy answer, and it's definitely not a one size fits all for all organizations. But I think the fact that we're talking about this and the fact that we're talking about increasing these things is huge to me.
Oh, Chad, you are going to go next, sir. So please.
All right. Well, just on that, also too, you have to know where you're at, because California has a whole different set of rules on how to deal with this. And so that may also factor in on what you can do and where you can do it. So I would just say, and usually that's why we lean on our HR, usually departments, to say, well, what do you want to do? No, you can't do that because the state says this or this, that. So sometimes that can kind of dictate what you do. But what we do as far as recruiting and hiring, a lot of the same stuff Mike has done with a few twists, right? And I think that's one of the benefits of this. You can hear how people are doing the same thing, but doing it a little bit different. So what we do is, what we've done here is we've essentially bifurcated maintenance away from property management. So maintenance reports to maintenance people. Like, maintenance does not report to community managers or property managers anymore. So what we do is, to hire, it's usually the supervisor of the person that they're hiring plus one step up. So like from my position, there's me, then I have directors. Underneath directors, I have regionals. Under regionals, I have area maintenance managers, and then under area maintenance manager, I have maintenance manager. So if you're going to hire a porter, the maintenance manager and the area maintenance manager conduct the interview. During the interview for anybody, could be a porter all the way up to a director, right? everyone takes an evaluation as part of their interview. And it's somewhat basic, but it does let you know what do people know, what don't they know. As Mike said, sometimes people will come in and they'll talk to talk, and you put them in front of something and they have no idea what they're doing, right? This kind of helps out with that because they have to read it and comprehend it and understand it. It's a multiple choice test. It's 50 questions. But it also gives you a very good idea on the skills that they do bring. So you can. So, I have properties where we don't have any split system HVACs. Everything's in wall units, right? I don't care if that guy bombs the HVAC portion because he doesn't have any HVAC at that property. Or, like Mike said, we might be able to identify a good place to put them in. Another thing that I've done historically is we've worked with some organizations. I've done it here in California. I actually used to do it in Washington as well, in Texas and a few other places, where we would go out to some of the larger local vocational schools. And even though they're usually specialized, right? They're electrical or HVAC, things like that. We would go in, I would spend some time there. I would usually travel there, just kind of let them know about the industry. But we partnered up with a few schools that part of their curriculum was that they had an apprenticeship there. So what we did was, like for HVAC, part of their thing is they had to complete an apprenticeship to get through to get their degree. So we provided that. And what we did was, we had the stipulation that I believe what it was is they had to work 80% on HVAC, right? So what we did is I put a couple of these people with area managers and regional managers and things like that to where they came with us, and guess who did the HVAC preventive maintenance? It was that group. But we would schedule it, they would do it. And then what we did is we introduced along the way, oh, this is what we do in make readies. This is some of the other stuff that we do, because some of the really great, and I don't want this to sound negative at all because I don't mean it to be, but myself included, so let me put that in there. Some of the best maintenance people that I know have a little bit of a touch of ADD, right? They want to be involved in everything. They're kind of interested in everything. But if they did one thing and only that one thing all the time, it would kill them. And, you have to have that right mix. And some people will go through that class, and at the end of, and they're heading towards the end of it, they're like, do I really want to just work on air conditioners every day, all day long? And that's all I do. So we've gone through that, and what we did is we get a sense of their work ethic, and then also too we show them the benefits as far as free or discounted apartments, learning other trades along the way, and we've actually got some really good people to come in and go through that program. We also have a mentorship program, so it's twofold. There's a maintenance mentorship program where we take our already established maintenance managers and we essentially help them learn how to teach people, right? If that makes sense. And we don't just make people mentors. We have to make it a voluntary thing because not everybody wants to be a mentor and not everybody should be a mentor. Just because they know what they're doing doesn't mean that they should be showing other people, right? So there is that program, but then that marries up to what we call the maintenance apprenticeship program. And what we do, but what that is for, where it differs a little bit from where Mike was coming from, we restrict that to people who have been maintenance techs for 6 months or less in other positions, or their current porter or groundskeepers, because we want them to come in with the mindset that they are here to learn. Not that they already know everything and they know the best thing, and we're trying to reprogram them. We're trying to show them, give them a solid foundation. And the way that I describe it, you might kind of put it the same way, is, design a program to where if these people are better off the first 6 months in their career than where I was, right? That's the thing, is we want to take them in that 6 months and make them what I would call a solid make-ready tech, low-level tickets, be able to do the majority of turns on their own, and they have to troubleshoot from there. So when they go through this program, for the first year after they graduate, they're not allowed to be at a property where they're by themselves. Like, they have to be at a large enough property where they have a maintenance supervisor at least to help them along the way with some of that stuff. So we've had a lot of different varying degrees of success. But also too, the evaluation up front helps a lot. And then also too, when we do the apprenticeship program, much like Mike's, it is standardized, but there's no time frame. But it is delivered in a linear order. So it's like the first thing is just understanding the business of property management maintenance. Then that goes into curb appeal, and the curb appeal goes into painting and caulking, and then that goes into millwork. Millwork goes into plumbing. Plumbing goes into electrical. Electrical goes into appliance repair, and then that's how that is. So if they come to us with those plumbing skills, they still learn everything in the same order. But when they hit that plumbing part, what the curriculum is, there is an actual curriculum to it. And part of it is instruction. So you show them how to do it. Part of it is that they do it with help. And then where they sign off on it is when their mentor feels that they can do a particular job, like a garbage disposal or a GFI or whatever, they have to demonstrate that they can do it and do it with confidence, with no help. Once they do, they sign off on that particular type of item. Then that frees up for when the next time that a garbage disposal ticket comes in, a service request comes in, you can actually give them that request and they can go because they've been in that program where they've gone with their mentor, they know how to go into units, they know how to interact with residents, they know how to do the job. But we never teach them how to do a job in an occupied apartment, always in make readies and things like that. So that's really kind of how we built it a little bit different. But, like I said, and that's the thing is where we like to try to promote from within wherever we can, much like everybody else, right? But that's why, I would rather never want to hire a maintenance manager. I'd always want to promote someone into that role than promote somebody into that role. Because we also have like varying degrees of tech now, which we just started within since first of the year, probably. So now there's a tech 1, tech 2, tech 3. Well, I'd rather have a tech 3 move to a manager and move a tech 2 to a tech 3 and a tech 1 to a tech 2, and then train a new tech 1 or even a new porter, put a porter into that tech 3. So that's really how we've been doing it. We've had some success as of late, luckily.
Yeah, I love how you say it. Ideally, we should only hire groundskeepers because every other position that's not groundskeeper, we should promote from within. And then we should hire groundskeeper and just create a career path. So that's pretty awesome. We also have Craig here with us and Joshua. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to go to you. We have 2 more to go around the table on this. So just so you know, the question that I ask is, what's your role in a recruiting process? Like how much involvement do you have with your company? And what is the process looking like in general? So that is the question when we get to you after your quick introduction. I'm going to ask you to speak on that subject. Jake, you're next.
Yeah, so my day-to-day, and right now we're hiring for quite a few positions for the new lease up. So I'm pretty much just hiring from the basics of like what a maintenance supervisor would. So scheduling the interviews and having the interviews and then passing that on and up. I've got to do it in a bit more capacity, and probably from my perspective, I would just say for anybody wanting to take more of that role, you just have to get yourself into the position where you show that you're responsible enough to do that. And you can go get the positions you want and to learn that stuff by just showing you can do it. So probably from more of a motivation standpoint for anybody listening would just be, get out there and ask to be shown how to interview and stuff, become very good at it. And it helps you in your personal life too. The more interviews you do, the less stressful it is when you go into that interview aspect. You know what answers are being, that they want to hear, and you just become better. And then when you're doing your interviews, you learn what you want to hear from the people so you can make an educated guess at that moment. Because kind of bounce off what Mike said is like when we're in our interviews now, you almost have to be willing to, or if in a lot of cases I have and had success, offer somebody a position in that moment. Because if you don't, there is going to be another property management company that offers them that same position at either an equivalent rate or a less rate, which sometimes hurts because you just didn't get to them first. And, you miss out on people who are, good employees. So it's really kind of soul searching and learning how to read people in a sense. that you can make a good choice quick, and it's not easy, but it's just learning the right questions to ask. And a lot of the times it's less about what your skills are. It's just kind of, can you just have a conversation? Can you walk the property and just kind of shoot the breeze in a sense, and then kind of dive further into those more technical questions and stuff as you go. And I definitely will say the thing that I think gets forgotten a lot in our interviews is our industry, especially on the maintenance side. Well, our whole industry on both sides, it's so highly trainable. You literally can walk into this with zero experience. If you're a motivated person, like, you could get trained to do a maintenance supervisor's position, no problem, if you have a skill set of learning, right? So it's like, a lot of the times I think we tend to scoff our noses at people who may not have that industry background. And it's like, that's where you have to be willing to just take that chance and just say, oh, you are somebody who can learn something. You have, maybe in a different industry, you have different certifications and stuff that you've shown you learn how to do. So that's been kind of just my overall goal personally, is just making sure you're learning who the person is, and they have a conversation. And it's the soft skills nowadays. It's very, very interesting. Not from what it was even in the days when you were getting asked the basic questions when you're going onto a construction site on, can you tack 2x4s? It's like, those are questions aren't even what we're asking nowadays,
Jed, you're up next, sir.
All right, I'm going to be a similar echo to everyone, but this is great. Yeah, we actually, every Friday, we put out all of our job postings to every single employee with Allied Residential. I do think it is really important to try to hire from within whenever that is possible. So that also, not only gives all of our employees the chance to talk to a friend that they might know, but it also gives them the chance to say, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to step up into this role or move to this position. Maybe it pays more, maybe it's closer to home, whatever that aspect might be. It gives them that chance to take that opportunity and, move into that role before we would hire outside of the company to do that. We have a $500 referral bonus for anybody that can bring in a friend or someone that knows of needing a job, and they do get hired on and stay for 60 days. It seems to be really successful. I think one of the things I think that's important, I should say first, that when you can go on to alliedresidential.com and right now to have quick access to every single one of our open positions, and click right there and see they're broken down by city. There is a full job description. There's a full pay range right there. I think it's important to be transparent with what the job role really is nowadays, and not play games or give half of the true story of what that role is. All the people that apply, no matter whether it's that way, whether it's through, Indeed, social media, those usually go to the portfolio manager and the property manager. And then it's generally, if it's going to be a maintenance tech or a groundskeeper position, like everyone was saying, it's generally the maintenance supervisor and the manager together that would interview that tech, let's say, that's going to be coming on board. I'm always there to back up those teams. If they ever wanted a follow-up interview, if they weren't sure between two candidates, I can always help out and do a follow-up. Or if it happens to be for a maintenance supervisor or maybe a project manager, that's when I would step in and do those interviews as well, to make sure it's not only the skill set, but as everyone's saying, this whole industry is about people. So it's important to not just focus on the maintenance. The maintenance skills, as Jake was saying, is actually the easy part. We have so many opportunities for trainings right now. It's about finding the right people that have the drive. So another thing with the hiring, though, is we need to remember that we're not just interviewing them, they're interviewing us. So I think it's important to sell the aspects of your company that that are positive, that you have strength in. With Allied, I know with interviews, we're going to talk about, hey, all of your trainings are paid with Allied. You're going to get this electrician's license. You're not going to pay anything for this. You're going to get asbestos certification. You're going to get HVAC, certified pool operator. Those things, hopefully, the person that has the drive is going to see might be more important than 50 cents more an hour across the street. It's really where that's going to turn from a job into a career. And that's really what this industry is. Of course, there's a base, a skill set that we train everyone on. But with Allied, what I love is we have positions, like I like to say, for the people that want to ride the merry-go-round or the people that want to ride the roller coaster. Some people do love to just do one thing. Maybe they just love doing electrical and they just want to excel at that. Great. We have a path that they can take so that that's going to actually be their focus and their training to move up that electrical ladder, let's say, versus someone that doesn't really care about electrical as much, but they love doing appliance repair work. work. It makes for a better employee, which in turn makes it better for our residents, our owners, our company to try to put them in roles and opportunities that they enjoy doing and that they're good at. So I think that's important also, is to identify that once they're hired, to put them on the path that they really want to go. But I can't say it better than Jake said it is if you have the drive and ambition in this industry right now, you will move up fast. There's a lot of opportunities. This is a great time to step into this industry. So yeah, thanks, team.
Yeah. Craig, quick intro. And I know that you're currently not like in charge of recruiting. I'm just guessing, right, in your current role, but maybe you could speak on previous roles. What was your role into the recruiting process as a director of maintenance?
Sure. Well, I think there's a whole lot of echo going on in the room, which is awesome. It kind of means a lot of people on the same page. I think the only thing that I would kind of add to that just a little bit, attitude or soft skills is truly important. Don't forget aptitude. Certainly we can train somebody who doesn't particularly know a skill set if they have the aptitude for it. But aptitude is important. I don't want to hire a maintenance guy that absolutely positively doesn't know one end from a screwdriver from another and doesn't seem like they're going to be able to get there. And I've had that problem before where you get somebody in there, they seem like a good cultural fit, but they just couldn't get the maintenance part down. Also agree that promotion and the opportunity is there, and that there's plenty of growth available. But again, I think it's important to remember that skill set and competency is really important. No better way to discourage or have somebody leave your company than say, you are a great tech, you've been here for 2 months, now you're a supervisor, have fun with that. That the follow-up and that the training has got to be there to teach the skill sets necessary to do the job that they're going to do, without them ending up in a discouraged situation that could be detrimental. But I think we're in a whole different world. It's a different place that we're in right now. Some of that's exciting, some of that's scary when I look at young people today as to whether or not they're going to be willing to get their hands dirty and to get into the manual labor. But I think the more that the more that we see that there's not this what used to be this like, well, you don't have a college degree, then you're not a real person kind of a thing, to where, you know what, there's skill sets and skills that are learned in the trades that are equally as valuable as any college degree that you would ever get. And there are people who are extremely successful in their areas of expertise that make a very good living and a comfortable living. And, they're providing a service that's essential to be able to go through life, right? There's no amount of AI or robot that's going to replace the ability to actually fix an air conditioner. They might be able to give you lots of suggestions. I think the only other thing that I would say about promotions and promoting people is to be sure that the training that you have with inside the organization is there to back up the promotion. One thing we do really need to be careful of in our industry is we end up quickly promoting people who are now responsible for training the people below them. And are we 100% certain that the information that they're delivering out to our teams is accurate, good information, that we're not going to end up bringing up and training up a new group of technicians that think beer can cold is okay for charging an air conditioner.
Joshua, you're up next, sir. Quick intro of yourself and tell us about your role in a recruiting process within your company.
All right. I'm the regional maintenance director for CWS Apartment Homes for the Austin portfolio. And let's say for recruiting, interviewing, I guess how I do it is most of my guys know me as a very personable person. So I take that even into interviews as well. So if I'm interviewing, let's say, a new maintenance director for a property, during the interview process, I let's say, we're going to an older property and I know this property has a lot of this issue or that issue. So when I'm interviewing a person, I kind of try to get that personal level with them, just not, not coming in there where I try to break them out of that cycle of, hey, they may have already done 5 or 6 interviews. And if you interview a lot, you kind of get in this cycle, this repetitive cycle, these repetitive questions, these repetitive answers and stuff. So when they come before me, I kind of break that barrier and tell me about, not just you, tell me about the real you, not just professionally you, but your character, who you are, what do you like to do, stuff like that. Just try to get your interest. And that kind of tells me about this person. Are they going to be a good cultural fit? Are they willing? Do they have the willpower to take those next steps? As well as I try to interview them tailored to the property that they're interviewing for. Hey, I know this property has older R22 heat pump system. So if I'm going to kind of test them on their skills, and I kind of do that towards the end of the interview, I kind of tell them, hey, we're going to run through briefly just because I want to make sure that not only that the maintenance director that I'm hiring understands the basics. Some of these questions are going to seem very basic, but I want to make sure that, you understand the basics. And if you don't understand, just talk to me on how you would get the problem solved. And that gives me a process of, okay, how does this person think? Where does this person go from here if they don't know the answer? So kind of that's what I'll do is I will tailor it to the property that I know they're going for, as well as get them to know them personally as well. And that kind of gets me to know the person, better, other than just a professional aspect of them, but more, of who they are, what their interests are, where do they want to go. And I'm hoping it's just as enjoyable for them because, again, I'll repeat what I said earlier is if they're already looking for a job, they've interviewed with people. There's a lot of companies out there who, you just go through the motions and you go through the motions and you're being told what they want you to hear, what you want to hear. And I kind of like to break that barrier down, but that also helps kind of like, okay, maybe this person's not very strong where we're interviewing, but I have another property across town that they would be a stronger fit for. So why don't I pitch that idea to them instead? When I do this, I try to make sure the person is going to go somewhere. If we're really interested in this candidate and say they may not work at this property just because they're not strongly fitted for this property yet. But I have another property that is hiring that I feel like, hey, you would fit in perfect over here. Your strengths and everything would really benefit this property. Again, is trying to put somebody where I know they're going to succeed. I don't believe in throwing somebody where they're going to sink, they're going to fail. I don't want that to happen. I want to make sure that, hey, we're doing everything we can to ensure that this person is getting into the right place where they can succeed. And the weaknesses that I know they have, at least during this time while they're running this property, I can work with them to train them to get sharper on the weakness during that interview that they had. So later on, hey, I noticed that property's back open. It pays a little bit more. Like they said, it's closer to home. I would like to go for that. Perfect. I know that now you have the strength and I feel confident that you would be able to succeed there. Promoting within, I heard somebody earlier say, they get emails. Every team member gets an email out of, what properties are hiring. We do the same thing. And again, I say it again, I'm a very personable person with my guys. So I take a keen interest into each person. And if there is somebody that I think that's going to be a great applicant for, let's say this new construction, I'm going to go to them and be like, hey, did you see this opening? Maybe you should throw your resume in there. I think this would be a good step for you just because I have the confidence that this person knows and I know that they're hungry and I know they want to try something different. So, but other than that, I like to welcome more of an internal promotion more than an outside hire. Cause I remember being on the other side of that line, kind of where I had all the skill sets too. And then for whatever reason, let's say the company went and pulled somebody from outside. And unfortunately, I know that feeling and I know the other guys know that feeling as well. So biggest thing is for me is also to try to retain what we have and make sure that the team members that are currently have been, dedicated to us to show that, hey, we're also dedicated to improving you as well. We want to give you the chance. We've recognized that you've been working your butt off and we would love to give you this chance in order to excel further into their career.
Gentlemen, I've been taking notes as we're going around the room, and I would say that there's like so much more more granular that we could get on the recruiting process. Me personally, I think there's a lot of value in this, and I had some topics versus like the / questions that, we could be like going around the room within the next, 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 9 weeks. But at the same time, it doesn't matter, like, only what I believe. I like to get your thoughts on that, if you think that that's important or you find something else. With that being said, I'm just going to leave, I'm going to start with some questions, some notes that I took for you to think about. And then I want to go around the room with the remaining time. We're about 10 minutes to the top of the hour. And I want to ask you, each one of you, what are some topics that really resonate with you? You would really want for us to discuss within the next, first, like the next meetings. So my notes are, what are your leads coming from? Like, how do you get, candidates in? Like, job boards, word of mouth, what works best for you? What's the ownership process of recruiting looking like, right? Recruiter, gets the resume. They do the pre-screening. They send it to the, property manager, whatever that is. Are you also considering people that are unexperienced for some of your positions or not? What's your on-call policy? How does that play in, like, attracting candidates? And the details, the pay, the everything. I know, again, like, some of you touched on all of those, but we didn't touch, like, we didn't go around the room to hear from everybody. How are the discounts that you're offering to your employees that, might want to live on site? Where do you lose candidates in this process? How many touching points do you have? Is it 1, 2, 3 people until the final offer? How long does it take? And where do you feel like you're losing candidates in a process? How do you advertise outside the industry? How long is your recruiting process? What's your criteria for? I touched on that. I think that's a double note with, experienced versus no experienced candidates. How do you evaluate candidates? Do you have some templates, or each person that interviews kind of has their own game? They pick the questions that they think are the most relevant. Do your service managers interview candidates for technicians, groundskeepers, etc.? Are you giving your service managers interview training? So some of them are not experienced in interviewing. So are you giving them any training? Those are some thoughts that came from the conversation, from hearing you speaking. I think that, at some point it'll be important to, for us to touch on. But again, I want to give you the floor for the remaining time. Go around the room, and I want you to pick, 1, 2, 3 topics that you think that are, like, super important to you, so we could just kind of, like, put them all together and see what are the topics for the next agenda. I know that Jake needs to take off for a few minutes earlier. So Jake, I'm going to start with you, sir.
Yeah, I definitely think probably for us in the area, just like it seems so slow for the tech resumes to come in. So I think my big topic for the next week or two is going to be, how do you go out and find the candidates? So definitely, like, outreach to different vocational schools, colleges, and yeah, I think that's going to be my focus.
Okay. Chad, what are some favorite topics that you have that you like to see us talking about in the next meetings? Are you muted? I think you're muted.
There you go. Okay. No, I think there's something that is kind of coming up, and it really depends on how people's companies are structured. But I think just the maintenance structure or reporting structure might be something good to look at. Maybe not necessarily, everybody's talked about centralization. Well, there's different degrees of that, right? That might work for different companies. So I think even having a discussion on how things are structured and the pros and cons of different types of structure would probably be a good one.
Yeah, I love that. Jed?
Yeah, I think your set of questions, first off, as far as that goes, Adrian, those are great. I think that we could have and fill out for everybody or answer for everybody. But new topics I had, of course, we could dive into tech and AI, probably forever. But I think that that's definitely something that's coming, whether we like it or not. So maybe some avenues of that. Also, safety for maintenance. Being a safety director, I think that that's an aspect that needs to come back to the forefront, especially after COVID, and making sure we're still staying safe in all aspects of maintenance. And maybe some, I don't know, supply chain details or issues, vendor issues, areas where we know that we're going to be affected as far as, I don't know, maybe a paint supply chain or appliance chains issues, things like that we can maybe centralize a little more and see what ideas we can come up with or who's doing what.
Yeah, excellent topics. Great. Peter, what are yours?
My main one that I would like to see the comparison between people is benefits and compensation packages. It's a little bit different, like hourly wages per region, but maybe how that is looked at by different companies. And then also, like Jed said, I think it'd be interesting to hear if companies are using AI or how they see that affecting them in the future.
Mike, how about you, sir?
Yeah, I think the three things that I like to talk about is typically the growth path from start to finish, apprenticeship and up, the designation for service managers, having a national designation for service managers, and kind of treating the maintenance industry more like a trade versus just I don't know, we all feel like it's just now that we're having a seat at the table, right? After so many years. And so I think, we do have a seat at the table now, let's be clear. But I think that it's those are things for me. The national designation through NAA on a service manager level, the growth path piece, and then the complicated question of how do we attract people into the industry, right? How do we build the bench and create more people like the ones on this call, right, that are passionate and dedicated to the maintenance industry and have and call it home and have made a career out of it.
Yeah, that's excellent. Craig?
Well, since I don't really have a dog in the fight at the moment, then I will follow the group. The AI conversation is interesting because I'd love to see where people think that it's going to go, or where you can take it. It falls into the purview of some of what I do at the moment, so that'd be interesting.
Joshua?
Can you hear me right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I'm driving, guys. I think I'm kind of mirroring everybody. I want to get more into attracting. How do we attract people, get them to realize that this is a trade, that this isn't just a stepping stone into another trade. How do we retain those, and how do we attract people, retain them, and kind of go forward with a career in this field and just feel is just as important as if you were an electrician or a full-time plumber or HVAC. How do we kind of sell that idea to the upcoming generation that's coming into this field?
Excellent. Gentlemen, as we're about to wrap up, we're almost at the top of the hour. Again, super thank you all for taking the time for being here. I would love for you to reach out. Shoot me an email if you want to lead one of the meetings. Like, this is not Adrian's meeting, it's everybody, it's all of ours meeting. And I love to see others like taking the lead and leading the meetings. I'm going to put all the topics together. Obviously, we can't really touch on more than one or two topics, and I don't want to rush, like saying we're going to cover 5 topics and people don't have enough time to express themselves. Like, these are so important, and you guys are, each one of you are doing work, have done so many amazing things that I think it'll be detrimental if we rush through just topics and we check boxes just because we got to get to so many, I guess, things on the list. My goal is like to go deep, right? Want to go wide, but we also want to go deep. When we talk about a topic, I want to hear like 10, 15 different angles on that topic. So we all get educated by the others in the room. And please, if you have, friends or coworkers or, teammates that might benefit from these meetings, please send them my way. Send them or send me their information. I'll reach out to them. I want this group to become a larger group because, the more of us, the better. I think that, the better we could influence what's happening on our side of things in the industry. I want to thank you all. Have an amazing rest of the week, and I'll see you all in 3 weeks. Take care.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
all.
Hi, team.